Now, this video is on radiographic inspection. One of the most important methods of non-destructive inspection we have available to us is radiographic inspection. It allows us to photographically see inside a structure that is opaque to light. X-rays and gamma rays are forms of high energy, short wavelength electromagnetic waves. The amount of energy they contain is directly related to their wavelength. The shorter the wavelength, the greater the energy. They have no electrical charge nor mass, travel in straight lines at the speed of light, and can penetrate matter. Their depth of penetration is dependent upon the energy in the rays. The characteristic that make them especially useful in non-destructive inspection is that they are absorbed by the matter through which they pass, and the amount of absorption is proportional to the density of the material. They can ionize certain materials, which makes it possible for them to expose photographic film and cause certain materials to fluoresce or glow. X and gamma radiation, because of their unique ability to penetrate material and disclose discontinuities, have been applied to the radiographic X-ray inspection of metal fabrication and non-metallic products. The penetrating radiation is projected through the part to be inspected and produces an invisible or latent image in the film. When processed, the film becomes a radiographic or shadow picture of the object. This inspection medium in a portable unit provide a fast and reliable means for checking the integrity of airframe, structures, and engines. Radiographic inspection techniques are used to locate defects or flaws in airframe structure or engines with little or no disassembly. This is in marked contrast to other types of non-destructive testing, which usually require removal, disassembly, and stripping of paint from the subjected part before it can be inspected. Due to the nature of X-ray, extensive training is required to become a qualified radiographer, and only qualified radiographers are allowed to operate the X-ray units. Three major steps in the X-ray process discussed in subsequent paragraphs are: first of all, we will go for exposure to radiation, including preparation. Now, number 2 is processing of film, and number 3, interpretation of the radiograph. But before that, we will go for the generation of X-ray. Now, in generation of X-ray, the tube used to produce X-ray consists of a heavy insulating envelope in which is mounted a coil of wire or cathode that is heated with electrical current, so it will emit electrons. At the other end of the tube is the anode on which the target is mounted. The target is made of a material having a high atomic number, therefore a high density and lots of electrons. A high positive voltage is connected to the anode, so it will draw the electrons from the cathode. X-ray are generated when an electron from the cathode, which has been accelerated to a high velocity by the high positive voltage on the anode, strikes the target and dislodges an electron. The intensity of the X-ray beam is determined by the number of electrons available, and this is controlled by the amount of current used to heat the cathode. This current is measured in milliamperes. The energy of X-ray is determined by its wavelength, which is in turn determined by the velocity of the electrons striking the anode. This velocity is controlled by the voltage applied to the anode, which is measured in kilowatts. Now, classification of X-rays. The intensity of X-ray falling upon the film or fluorescent screen is related to the distance between the film and the radiation source. It obeys the inverse square law. If the distance between the source and the film is doubled, the amount of radiation falling on each unit of area is decreased to 1/4. If the distance is tripled, it is decreased to 1/9. In order to get the required amount of radiated energy at the surface of the film, we must control the amount of current supplied to the cathode. Low current in bracket MA, low intensity, and high current, high intensity. The voltage in bracket kV supplied to anode determines the amount of energy in the X-ray. The higher the voltage, the more energy it contains. Low energy X-rays are called soft X-rays, and those with high energy are called hard X-rays. Now, third is gamma rays. Gamma rays are composed of photons of radiation energy that are produced by the disintegration of certain isotopes. An isotope is a variety of a chemical element that has the same atomic number and position in the atomic table as the original element. It has the same number of protons in its nucleus and the same number of electrons, but a different number of neutrons in the nucleus. This gives it a different atomic mass and different physical characteristics. Unlike X-ray, which are produced only when electrons are flowing within the tube, gamma rays cannot be sort of controlled nor directed, so the equipment in which the isotopes are kept must provide safe radiation-proof storage. The container which holds the isotope is called a camera. Shown in the figure which I will be giving you to go through. The source is included in a heavy shielding of lead until it is needed to expose the film. The equipment is set up and the cover over the isotope is moved away to expose the source. With this type of camera, the control rod may extend the source to provide a wider angle of coverage. Now, number 4 is radiographic process, in which A is setup and exposure. For a permanent record of radiographic inspection, a sheet of photographic film is placed on one side of the object being inspected and the radiation source on the other. The film is placed as close to the specimen as possible, and the source is oriented in such a way that the radiation will penetrate it to pass an amount of radiation that is proportional to the density of the specimen. The denser the specimen, the less radiation will pass through and the less film will be exposed. The specimen is then exposed to a radiation source. The factors of radiographic exposure are so interdependent that it is necessary to consider all factors for any particular radiographic exposures. These factors include, but are not limited to, the following: A. Material thickness and density. B. Shape and size of the object. C. Type of defect to be detected. D. Characteristic of X-ray machine used. E. The exposure distance. F. The exposure angle. G. Film characteristic. H. Types of intensifying screen if used. Here it is very much important to mention knowledge of the X-ray unit capabilities should form a background for the other exposure factors. In addition to the unit rating in kilovoltage, the size, portability, ease of manipulation, and exposure particles of the available equipment should be thoroughly understood. Previous experience on similar object is also very helpful in the determination of the overall exposure techniques. A log or record of previous exposure will provide specific data as a guide for future radiographs. Now, number B is film processing. In this, photographic film is composed of a flexible transparent plastic sheet on which a thin coating of gelatin is placed. This gelatin contains an emulsion of extremely fine grains of silver bromide. When this bromide is exposed to photons of energy, either visible light or radiation energy, a latent image is formed on the film. The exposed film is treated with a developer which reduces the silver bromide grains that were touched by the radiation into clumps of black metallic silver. After all, the affected emulsion has been converted the developing action is stopped with an acid stop bath, and the film is treated with a chemical fixative which removes all of the unexposed silver bromides in the emulsion and makes the film insensitive to light. All of the chemicals are then washed out of the emulsion and it is dried and is ready for examination. The film is a negative, and the places which got the most radiation, that is the less dense areas, will be dark. Those where the intensity is the greatest will get the least radiation and will be the most clear. The end result in an X-ray film and the specimen being inspected. Because internal parts of or flaws in the specimen will have different densities, the image will be produced on the film by careful examination and evaluation. Internal flaws can be located. Frequently, these flaws would be uncoverable by any other means. The film or film processing, something more to know. After exposure to X-rays, the latent image on the film is made permanently visible by processing it successfully through a developer chemical solution, an acid bath and a fixing bath, followed by the clear water bath. The film consists of a radiation-sensitive silver salt suspended to gelatin to form an emulsion. The developer solution converts radiation-affected elements in the emulsion to black metallic silver. These all I have discussed previously also, but to know more words or lines or sentence or paragraph from the another text. These black metallic particles form the image. The longer the film remains in the developer, the more metallic silver is formed. You will find new something here, causing the image to become progressively darker. Excessive time in the developer solution results in overdevelopment. An acid rinse bath, sometimes referred to as a stop bath, instantly neutralizes the action of the developer and stops further development due to the soft emulsion and the non-absorbent quality of the base of most negative material. Only a very weak acid bath is required. The purpose of the fixing bath is to arrest the image at the desired state of development when a radiation sensitive material is removed from the developing solution. The emulsion still contains a considerable amount of silver salts which have not been affected by the developing agents. These salts are still sensitive, and if ordinary light will ultimately darken them and obscure the image, obviously if this occurs, the film will be useless. The fixing bath prevents this discoloration by dissolving the salts of silver from the developed free silver image. Therefore, to make an image permanent, it is necessary to fix the radiation sensitive material by removing all of the unaffected silver salt from the emulsion. After fixing, a thorough water rinse is necessary to remove the fixing agent, which, if allowed to remain, will slowly combine with the silver image to produce brownish yellow stains of silver sulfide, causing the image to fade. Here there is a note: all processing is conducted under a subdued light of a color to which the film is not readily sensitive. Number C is fluoroscopy. For high-speed radiographic inspection where no permanent record is required of the result, a fluoroscope may be used. This system is very similar to the photographic process, except that the entire equipment is enclosed in a lead box, and instead of using photographic film to record the results, the radiation passes through the specimen and causes a fluorescent screen to glow. The indication on the screen is such that the portion of the screen that receives the most radiation, the least dense portion of the specimen, will glow the brightest. The image is viewed through a lead glass viewing window. The main advantage of fluoroscopy is that objects can be viewed in real time. The test piece may be moved or rotated in front of the screen by handling devices for optimal viewing advantage. It may also be moved closer to the X-ray tube for magnification of the image. Now, what are the disadvantages of the fluoroscopy are? In which A. Equipment is bulky and usually cannot be transported. B. Operators must dark adapt their eyes to be able to see detail in the dim fluoroscopic image. C. Fluoroscopy is less capable of detecting small discontinuities than conventional film radiography. Now D. Equipment must be designed and constructed with special attention to operator safety. The initial investment in fluoroscopic equipment is comparatively high. Once this cost has been amortized, the cost per unit inspected usually is lower than for other radiographic inspection processes. Now there is a radiographic interpretation. In this we will go how we will interpret the different flaws and defects. So go through this. From the standpoint of quality assurance, radiographic interpretation is the most important phase of radiography. It is during the phase that an error in judgment can produce disastrous consequences. The efforts of the wide radiographic process are centered in the phase. The part or structure is either accepted or rejected. Condition of unsoundness or other defects which are overlooked, not understood, or improperly interpreted can destroy the purpose and efforts of radiography and can jeopardize the structural integrity of an entire aircraft. A particular danger is the false sense of security imparted by the acceptance of a part or structure based on improper interpretation. As the first impression, radiographic interpretation may seem simple, but a closer analysis of the problem soon dispels the impression. The subject of interpretation is so varied and complex that it cannot be covered adequately in the type of document. Instead, this chapter will give only a brief review of basic requirements for radiographic interpretation, including some description of common defects. Experience has shown that whenever possible, radiographic interpretation should be conducted close to the radiographic operation. It is helpful when viewing radiographs to have access to the material being tested. The radiograph cannot thus be compared directly with the material being tested. An indication due to such things as surface condition or thickness variation can be immediately determined. The following paragraphs present several factors which must be considered when analyzing a radiograph. There are three basic categories of flaws: voids, inclusion, and dimensional irregularities. The last category, dimensional irregularities, is not pertinent to this discussion because its prime factor is one of the degree and radiography is not the exacting. Voids and inclusion may appear on the radiograph in a variety of forms ranging from a two-dimensional plane to a three-dimensional sphere. A crack, tear, or cold shut will most nearly resemble a two-dimensional plane, whereas a cavity will look like a three-dimensional sphere. Other types of flaws such as shrink, oxide, inclusions, porosity, etc. will fall somewhere between these two extremes of form. It is important to analyze the geometry of a flaw, especially for such things as the sharpness of terminal points. For example, in a crack-like flaw, the terminal points will appear much sharper than they will for a sphere-like flaw, such as a gas cavity. Also, material strength may be adversely affected by flaw shape. A flaw having sharp points could establish a source of localized stress concentrations. Spherical flaws affect material strength to a far lesser degree than do sharp pointed flaws. Specifications and reference standards usually stipulate that sharp pointed flaws such as cracks, cold shuts, etc. are cause for rejection. Material strength is also affected by flaw size. A metallic component of a given area is designed to carry a certain load plus a safety factor. Reducing this area by including a large flaw weakens the part and reduces the safety factor. Some flaws are often permitted in components because of these safety factors. In this case, the interpreter must determine the degree of tolerance or imperfection specified by the design engineer. Both flaw size and flaw shapes would be considered carefully, since small flaws with sharp points can be just as bad as large flaws with no sharp points. Another important consideration in flaw analysis is a flow location. Metallic components are subjected to numerous and varied forces during their effective surface life. Generally, the distribution of these forces is not equal in the component or part, and certain critical areas may be rather highly stressed. The interpreter must pay special attention to these areas. Another aspect of flaw location is that certain types of discontinuities close to one another may potentially serve as a source of stress concentrations. Therefore, this type of situation should be closely scrutinized. An inclusion is a type of flaw which contains entrapped material. Such flaws may be either of greater or lesser density than the item being radiographed. The foregoing discussion on flaw shape, size and location apply to equally to inclusions and to voids. In addition, a flaw containing foreign material would become a source of corrosion. Number 5 is radiographic safety procedures. Any form of radiation must be carefully monitored, as this form of energy is harmful to human life. The United States Atomic Energy Commission sets up safety procedures regarding the handling of radioactive materials, and their recommendation must be adhered to. The main reason for the use of radiographic inspection is the ability to penetrate almost anything we must inspect. For this reason, it is difficult to protect ourselves from its effects. Radiation produces changes in all matter through which it passes. This is also true of living tissue. When the radiation strikes the molecules of the body, the effect may be no more than to dislodge a few electrons, but an excess of these changes could cause irreparable harm. When a complex organism is exposed to radiation, the degree of damage, if any, depends on which of its body cells have been changed. The most vital organs are located on the center of the body. Therefore, penetrating radiation is likely to be the most harmful in this area. The skin usually absorbs most of the radiation and therefore reacts earliest to radiation. If the whole body is exposed to a very large dose of radiation, it can result in death. In general, the type and severity of the pathological effects of radiation depends on the amount of radiation received at one time and the percentage of the total body exposed. The smaller doses of radiation may cause blood and intestinal disorders in a short period of time. The more delayed effects are leukemia and cancer. Skin damage and loss of hair are also possible result of exposure to radiation. The best shielding, we can use a layer of lead, and we must be very careful that there are no holes in the shielding that will allow the radiant energy to escape. Person working around X-ray or gamma rays equipment should wear radiation monitoring film badges. These are special containers of film that are worn while in the vicinity of the equipment. At specified intervals, these pieces of film are developed to see if they have been affected by the radiation. Areas where X-rays or gamma rays equipment is used should be controlled to prevent anyone being exposed to radiation energy. Radiographic inspection rooms should have some type of visible indication outside the door to indicate when inspection is in progress. A system to notify personnel of danger areas and and when radiographic inspection will take place must be established when portable equipment is used out in the shop or hangar. Any container carrying radioactive material must display the symbol for radioactive material.